The overall theme that I came up with when I was perusing the upcoming astrology for May 2026 is we are beginning a period of new growth. Now you might say, haven't I been growing and learning enough? Well, we've been learning different types of lessons as this year has progressed. We have been put in a pressure cooker. Definitely March was a huge pressure cooker. April, we spent a lot of time taking action, all of those planets moving through Aries. In case you missed any of that, again, you can go back and watch my April report or read my blog posts about this. But we've had different evolutions of changes. We've had all of these outer planets changing signs month over month over month, starting in January, and retrogrades happening as well, or closing out as well. And it's so much on the board, moving on the board, and then piling up and then spreading out and then piling up. So it's been a very, very active year and challenging in a lot of ways. So I think, hopefully, that May will feel a little different, feel maybe a little bit more supportive, because we're going to be taking what we've learned and we're going to be applying it. Again, that's the beginning energy, which I'll talk about more in the next section, part 2, and the growth piece. So whenever we're growing, we're also going to be reflecting at the same time. We have to see where we came from to inform where we're going. And that's really what is happening over the next 4 to 5 weeks. We have the Scorpio full moon. I'm also going to be talking about Mercury and Mars, which are activating the modern ruler of that lunation, in other words, Pluto. Keeping in mind that Mars is the traditional ruler. And then Pluto is stationing retrograde. So really the big player here is Pluto. And this is a planet of growth and transformation, hence the theme naming that we have. So for our full moon, this is happening on May 1st, 1:22 p.m. Eastern Time. I will toss this one in the chat, and this is at 11 degrees of Scorpio. And for this lunation, full moons are a culmination point. I mentioned earlier in the setup, we reflect on a full moon. There's light, things are illuminated, it is full. We are thinking about our abundance, we're thinking about how far we've come, what we've achieved, what we've received, what we're grateful for. Because this is in Scorpio, fixed water, incredibly intuitive, incredibly emotional, intense sign. This is a big full moon we want to pay attention to. If you're someone who has a Scorpio moon or is particularly emotional in any way, get the tissues ready, because you never know what might come up on this day. So what we want to take the opportunity to do in this reflection is actually look back at the new moon in Scorpio, which happened in November 20th to be exact, and some questions that you could ask yourself. What are you grateful for? How has your intuition evolved, or your interest in spiritual modalities? Where have you discovered truth? Where have you discovered deception, revealed, uncovered deception? Lots of questions. And then, of course, you want to look at your own chart for which house, single house, you have at 11 degrees of Scorpio to go further. But next up, right after that, we have just a few days later, Mercury squaring Pluto. Pluto, again, is a modern ruler of Scorpio. So we have all of these activations relatively close to each other. And this is only 5 degrees away from where that full moon was. So these activations are all happening. Well, the other ones I'm going to be talking about are all happening in basically the same exact spot, 5 and change degrees. And then the Scorpio moon is only 5 or 6 degrees, 5.5 degrees away. So it's also very, very close. And typically in astrology, we look at an orb of 5 degrees. But if it's an outer planet, which is what's happening here, we can extend it to 8. So this is within the orb, which means Pluto, a ruler of this full moon, is sitting right nearby. And there's going to be ripple effects before and after because of this activation. Mercury represents the mind and communication, and a square is tension. That we're going to be put in a situation where something is happening, revealed, that may feel a little bit uncomfortable, but we're going to learn something from it. And specifically, what we're going to learn is something that relates to our soul journey, spiritual growth, really long-term growth. Pluto moves slowly. It's moving through Aquarius, and it is spending 20 years in this sign. We're at the point now where we're got about 18 years and change left. So we're really only at the beginning of the Pluto and Aquarius journey. And when we have this square, it means the mind is being challenged in some way by what is happening with the subconscious. So subconscious tapping at the door of our consciousness, our mental state, our information processing, our communication. So we want to observe what comes up this day as well. So we already have the full moon. See what comes up. Maybe you have some intuitive hits. Maybe you have some wisdom. Maybe some truths are revealed. And then just a few days later, 4 days later, something else might come up that's going to feel different. It's going to feel maybe a little bit uncomfortable. So we want to ask ourselves, what is it that makes you feel uncomfortable? What are sources of discomfort? What are challenges you're experiencing? What are your current growing pains? So lots and lots of opportunities here for a plethora of journal prompts. And because we're talking about our emotional state, but also our mind, it's a great opportunity to, again, make the subconscious conscious. Sit, think about it, write about it, talk about it, see what comes up. Less than 24 hours later, we have Pluto stationing retrograde. Now, Pluto, as well as the other outer planets, so Jupiter and beyond, they all retrograde once a year. So this is not a super big deal, if you will. It's like half on, half off with their retrograde. However, it's happening in this sequence with all of these Pluto activations going on and this Pluto-ruled full moon. So it is of note, and it's something that we want to think about. Plus, with Pluto stationing retrograde, our reprieve, alas, wasn't it so nice, of all of our planets being in direct motion will end. So we had, I think it was like late March, we had like basically a month's worth of time where everything was moving in direct motion, and we had all of that Aries energy. So if you felt like, oh, I'm checking things off, I'm finally getting things done, I'm digging myself out of a hole, that's what we've been dealing with or experiencing over the last several weeks here. But this is going to be leading the charge to here's a retrograde, and then we're going to start having other planets as the rest of the year goes on. Retrograde, 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 retrograde. It's going to be staggered, but they're still going to be kicking off. So it stations retrograde. And what does this mean? Like, what is a Pluto retrograde? And they're known for, surprise to no one, introspection. We're thinking about, reflecting on, bringing to light, making known to ourselves what's going on with power dynamics in our life. What's our relationship with control? So do we need to let go? Do we need to release? Pluto is associated with death and rebirth. So that means destruction. So where can we just let things fall apart? Because something can be born from those ashes. It's a time to master releasing, surrender, really big topics, being able to let go of what's not serving you. When we have a retrograde, these are healing periods. So we're healing our relationship with growth, with big fundamental change, not sudden change, that's Uranus, but transformative change, becoming what feels like a totally new person. And what is happening just in the context here? We had that Mercury square. Well, Mercury is going to keep moving and pulling away from it, and then it's moving backwards. So they're not going to run into each other again because now Pluto's moving one way and Mercury's moving another way. So they're not going to have this aspect repeating again because now they're moving in opposite directions. So Mars and Mercury have, for some time now, been in the same sign and playing tag team with each other. So they were a part of that big pileup in Aries. So they both entered Aries, they conjoined a bunch of planets, then they conjoined each other. And then because Mercury's fast, it got farther ahead. So this same activation of the Mercury square to Pluto repeats with Mars. It's just a little bit later because it moves slower and because Mercury sped ahead. So that will be happening at the end of the month on the 26th. So for that square, it's happening, for comparison, 5 minutes earlier, meaning 5° 25 minutes versus 5° 30 minutes where the last one happened. So it shows you how slowly Pluto was moving. To just back up, and then in those several weeks, like around 2 to 3 weeks, it takes that long to just move such a fraction of a degree point. And then meanwhile, Mars is just crawling its way forward to then be able to form that square. So when we have a Mars-Pluto square, we have another series of questions that we can ask ourselves, such as, what actions need new life breathed into them? Where am I unaligned with my mind, because we just recently and very close by had that Mercury activation, spirit, Pluto, and drive, Mars? So we do want to blend them a little bit together. And this is an inflection point. We're deciding now, like it's a checkpoint for Mars, for what our goals are. We've been taking a lot of action. We've been recalibrating. Everything that we did during April was figuring out how to reconnect to our intuition, change our relationship with change and with boundaries and rules and structure. And so we learned all of those lessons over the course of April. And now we have this lesson with Pluto. Okay, well, I got to make sure that my soul work is being accounted for here. What am I missing? Because again, it's a square. So it's like, ooh, what did I miss that's now going to come forward for me? So this becomes a checkpoint that we need so that we keep going and moving forward in alignment. On May 31st, at what an incredible time, 4:44 a.m., and I'll put this one in the chat as well, we have a Sagittarius full moon at 9 degrees of our mutable fire sign. So we are on the first day of May and on the last day of May having full moons. And it's the same lesson. When we had that full moon on the 1st, we're going to be reflecting. But now we're going to be reflecting again. We already spent all month reflecting. Pluto is going to have us reflecting for many, many other months. Other retrogrades are going to have us looking back in different ways. But this is a lot of signatures of pausing, tuning in. And also because these are two full moons, there's the emotional activation piece. So what is our processing? And when we're talking about Sagittarius, this is related to adventure, wisdom, optimism, and our belief system. So we were talking about spiritual work and our intuition, but now we have our belief system in here as well. So these are really big concepts. Again, this is growth, this is transformation. We are evaluating, we're observing, we're asking ourselves all of these really intentional questions. What you want to do for this full moon is you want to look back at December 19th. So we had November 20th for the first one, and then December 19th for the second one. This is another round of gratitude. This is another opportunity, specifically for Sagittarius, to check our perspective, check our outlook, check our attitude. And we're closing out this month on this moment of reflection. And really, this will be the last time. This will be the last full moon to new moon story that we're looking back at 2025, because then the following month, now we're going to be looking back at early 2026 and so on and so forth. So there's a sense of finality and significance to the review that we're doing. So overall, this whole little journey here, which goes from the 1st all the way to the 31st, the entire month, this Pluto lunar reflection storyline. We're looking at our soul's work, our drive, our beliefs. Where have we gone astray, both mentally, physically? Do we need to lean into our intuition? Do we need to have an embodiment work practice connecting to ourselves? The moon relates to the body in other ways as well. And we're building off of all of that change and the stretching that we did during April. And we're actually going to go into our cocoons. We're going to go inward. So things were fiery. Things were on all cylinders. We experienced burnout, probably a little bit in February, definitely in March. And then hopefully not as much in April, because we were able to just release and run around and do things. But now we're retreating a little bit inward. We're doing the reflection. We have opportunities for healing, for making sure that we're on the path that like we're meant to. Like this is some really big picture stuff. And these transits that I'm talking about, and you'll hear me talking about in part 2, they don't end in May. So many will continue into June, and the Pluto retrograde will continue for longer than that. But we're being set up here for this pivot. It feels really meaningful and significant. Growth, it's the growing pains. It's you have stretch marks. It feels a little tense, but we know that it's worth it. We know it's important.